It's like, there's no chance, there's no way. Because I said that about MVP even earlier, and they went to an ace match, but Bomber needs to play the game of his life here. He needs to impress me. He needs to show me what he hasn't shown the past few months.
Yeah, he has to show a different Bomber. You know, like the Bomber of old that was going abroad, winning a bunch of stuff, sponsored by Red Bull, doing this, doing that, but now he's kind of a shadow of himself, especially in that game. You know, that's not the game that Bomber would usually play against Stats. He would have the confidence to play a straight-up game, a macro game, against someone who even looks that dominant, you know? But nowadays, just not finding that confidence. He does have one win in the one game that he played. That is the game against Forte, I do believe.
Yeah, that was the time where he got MVP as well, which was shocking to me. But he almost lost that game. But he had to get that win, and he did secure Afreeca Freak's placement in the playoffs. And that means that this guy can take these wins under pressure.
Yeah, you can see that the Pentagon of Cure not that big these days. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that Bomber's Pentagon is that big.
Well, he's 4-0 versus Cure. Shouldn't even be a line in there. It should just be a full Bomber chart. But the thing that was highest for Bomber there actually makes me finally understand what star quality means. I thought star quality initially was like how well they're doing in Star Leagues, but actually no, it's how famous they are. He's way more famous than Cure. He's a much bigger personality.
How big of a star is he?
Yeah.
That's the star quality is. So we do have one vote for Bomber. That is Kanata. Of course, he did go for the vote for Gumiho in the last one, and he was right about that. So maybe he's got the magic touch tonight.
That it could be. Cure, just such a reliable player in Pro League. Surprised he's only been fielded 3 times, but then again, Dinner took that first round like hardcore. They were not messing around.
Yeah.
They went basically super try-hard. Went all the way, of course, to that finals.
Well, guys, let's jump into game number 2 now between Cure and Bomber. Up here in the top right on Orbital Shipyard in the red, our Terran player from the generic Green Wings, it is Cure.
And down here to the bottom left, in blue, it is Bomber. Former Eastro Pro gamer from Starcraft 1, switching into Startail and then becoming solo sponsored by Red Bull, and now eventually ending up here on the Afreeca Freaks. And kind of a roster swap to the Freaks that everyone expected, giving his long history with Startail, and of course the coach of the Afreeca Freaks, a legend. For some reason, my mic is like cutting in and out for some reason.
It's like doing spins around your face. It doesn't even make sense. Yeah, I see what's going on over there.
All right,
okay,
I think I'm all right now.
Yeah. So TBT on this map, as I was saying before, I used to always predict that Protosses would do quite well on this map, but then looking at the stats, I was like, Protosses are 2-9 on this map against Terran, and it just went to 2-10 after Myungshik lost to. Who did he lose to?
He lost to Gumiho. That's right.
After that, it's now. Well, I guess those are the GSL stats, but either way, it's like lots of Terrans feeling pretty good about this map. So it doesn't surprise me that we do see a TBT here.
By the way, a second barracks for Cure, who's going for the same Reaper opening as Bomber, just committing to it a little bit further. Definitely not going to be something that Bomber expects on this map, given the large rush distance that you've been mentioning a lot, which is really important to note. So I wonder how much of a commit we're going to see from Cure. I mean, he obviously is delaying his CC quite a bit from this.
Yeah, this is definitely hidden, you know. It's because Bomber's not going to realize this is coming, that this could do a bunch of damage. The other, you know, it's got a long rush distance, but it's got a very wide cliff, so maybe it's like, well, if I get up the cliff very fast and he can't get those initial shots on me and I've got like 2 more Reapers, well, things could go really bad for the player with the less Reapers or the less defense.
Yeah, especially because Reapers regen. So once you win the first 2 fights, it's not like it's like, well, I can surround with SCVs, get it killed. With the new grenade as well, things can get very hairy. There's a hidden SCV to the left side of the map. I don't think he's going to build any structures there, but he will maybe go for a follow-up scout a little bit later on. Or maybe even just push up with the Reapers. actually kind of similar to what Forte did versus Bomber in the previous TVT. Brought a Hellion, if I'm not mistaken, with it though.
Yeah, I believe you are correct there. He's just going to try to get the SCV up the ramp, you know, while Bomber is going to be microing against these 3 Reapers here.
Yeah, they can give him vision, and looks like he's just going to jump up here where it's secure. He wants to target down the Reaper first, and then deal with the Marines' kite against them. Good control so far here out of Cure. Bomber gonna get that Hellion out. It's gonna be very helpful in the defense.
Oh, one of those Reapers is so low, and he does get it.
Nice Hellion shot there. Very well controlled by Bomber.
And that will easily repel this attack. The second the Hellion comes out, it becomes a lot more difficult, unless Cure was going to commit to something like 3 Rax Reaper, where it's just non-stop Reapers. Just kind of a pressure build out of Cure that did not go as planned, so Bomber definitely going to get ahead here.
Yeah,
and Cure's going to try to come back with a 3rd CC.
He has a pretty big edge, especially with the lead on his stim that he has right now. That means that when the first engage happens, he's going to have that advantage. There's no way that Cure can fight Bomber without stim. And the tech lab for that is slowly on its way back on the other side of the map. So what Cure does while behind is to make a 3rd CC. He's going to take a risk and try to get ahead in the worker count, have triple mules. That's going to be his plan here.
Yeah, and can do so. You were talking about that long rush distance. Get out a couple of tanks, get your Viking just to make sure that he's not dropping. You can push away his medevacs that will be spotting the high ground towards that 3rd base, and just play it safe from there. So I kind of like the idea out of Cure, you know, even though it didn't quite work out to begin with, there is like a follow-up plan, you know. It's not like, well, if this doesn't work, then I'm screwed. You know, I might as well not even,
Sure.
You know.
He has a follow-up. Earlier I mentioned there was a tech lab on the way, but it was very late. It was actually the tech lab on the factory. Then Bomber, or rather Cure made this tech lab here on the barracks you can see on the left. Still hasn't started stim. I was almost about to get, like, my mech senses were tingling for a moment there before that he added that, because I was like, well, I mean, he does have to get stim.
Elbow.
Yeah. He's got to get that right. It's super important. Now he's going double eBay without it. He needs that stim. Looks like he just really wants to turtle using these siege tanks and never drop or harass.
Yeah, I mean, he's got enough, but as you were saying, I think he just wants as many tanks as possible. He's got his Viking into position to block, and he drops coming in.
And as Bomber's stim finishes, Cure starts his. Bomber's going to have this drop. If the tanks are not ready, Bomber could do massive damage with this stim. If he fights these Marines away from the tanks, he may do game-ending damage with this, just simply because of the lack of stim.
Yeah, and look at this. He's got his 2 Vikings split up. One Viking can't take out both of these medevacs here. He's got to get a tank towards his back door, and he has to identify this is coming in. It looks like, though, Bomber's not going to commit to that with the 1 Viking. He's just going to sit back, pressure the front, and start his 3rd.
Worker count is even right now. Cure going to get ahead in that shortly, though, with this 3rd CC that he has up. He's not moving it down yet, as he doesn't have stim. He knows it's hard to actually move out, take that control of that location without his siege tanks, especially with that drop roaming around. It's very scary. But I just have to keep piloting the stim. It takes away all power. It's like the Marines might as well not have guns. It's like the Marines are fighting with swords versus Bomber's Marines. It's just, you're never, ever, ever going to beat a Marine stimmed army without stim. 1-1 on the way for Cure as well with that other risk that he took with a double eBay. Bomber himself does not have this. But he sees how late, Cure does see how late Bomber's 3rd CC is, and that's going to give him a little bit of, I guess it's going to make him feel a little bit more secure in himself in this game. Down in supply, keeping the worker count as even as possible, trying to get that extra money.
Yeah, Cure eventually is going to have to lay down that 3rd base. We've got a massive drop coming out here from Bomber. I'm not sure if he's going to commit to like a doom drop or if he's just trying to get over to the other side of the map very fast, because he could just, you know, set up his tanks towards the bottom of the cliff right next to the 3rd base and begin to shell that and deny that. He's going to scout with the Hellion as well, so he knows where this army is.
He knows everything is not in the main, so he may just boost in for that doom drop. He has stim. Stim is almost done for Cure, but it won't matter if his units aren't in position. There's a turret. Oh, those 2 tanks just moved away. If Bomber commits, this could be huge damage.
He's going to come in. The 2 tanks are ready here from Bomber. Sieged up, but there's no support. The stim's going to come in and snipe 1 already.
All right, a lot of turret damage going off onto these medevacs, which means no retreat for Bomber's units. But look at this, the tank's hitting the Marines on the low ground, and Bomber is still set up for more damage here. Going to take out the Viking as well and start hitting these production facilities. May even be able to stop combat shields. His combat shields are done, by the way. Another big advantage.
It's going to go down, and no combat shields here for Cure. And the rest of this army right on top of the production. What a move by Bomber.
Now up 30 supply here. Cure is getting dominated right now.
Somehow, some way, it looks like Bomber's finally going to pull out of the base, but he does have more units coming across. He can continue to shell even the gas on the left side. But I do like the Viking play out of Cure because this is going to try to deny this. Even just one Viking will be able to push some of those medevacs out of the way.
This is really the kind of game I want to see from Bomber. This is the Bomber game where we go, all right, you've still got it, man. You're back.
Yeah. This is not the Bomber we saw play up against Stats with the failed cheese. You know?
Or even the Bomber we saw against Forte, who even though he won the game, did not look, you know, mechanically sound. We're seeing good multitasking, good decision-making here, you know, basically finding out what his opponent's up to, the quick reaction to stop that combat shield, snipe that. He never restarted it, as far as I can tell. He doesn't have it still.
Yep, still none.
I mean, the Tech Lab just refinished. That means these units are fighting down in hit points.
Oh, and look at this.
This isn't enough turrets.
2 turrets is not enough, exactly. And all of these units are once again into the main. Looks like there's one tank in position. He's going to drop down the rest of his tanks here to try to sell this army.
Oh, look at this targeting by Bomber. Even grabs a siege tank. He's going to lose all of his tanks here, though, as there is no escape. A big win for Cure overall, I would say. But if that barracks burns down, that still means no more combat shields. And look at this, even taking out a few of the SCVs from behind as well. And he's coming up towards the third base now to hit at the front while there's no tanks here.
Yeah, here's the stem. There's no defense for any of the SCVs in the third base. Meanwhile, Bomber taking a fourth base back at home. Cure will eventually clean this up, but so much damage has been done. 14 SCVs go down. Bomber is nearly doubling the SCV count right now.
All Bomber needs to do now is defend. Look at the army supply. He traded poorly when it came to army. He just went all in on the economy with those attacks, which means there's a counterattack potential here for Cure. Cure realizes this. He scans. Says, oh, okay, you traded so poorly. I know if I smash the front here and actually beat you in a straight-up fight, I can do my own counter-wise economic damage. Bomber knows this, though, and he is trying to set up a solid defense here. All he has to do is defend, and he's got a fourth base, double the workers, as mentioned.
Oh, man, there's still no combat shields out on the map. He still just has all these Marines that do not have combat shields. It's 47, rather, uncombat shielded Marines in this army.
He needs to do good exchange with the tanks, and this is not it. This is not it. This is not enough.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. This map, it's so easy to defend if you know it's coming, and there's 2 sensor towers ready and waiting with all of his tanks sieged up. I think Cure may just go for like this one all-in.
I think that's all he can do. The other option is because of the strong defense on this map, and he is ahead in upgrades, minus the combat shields. He's still now remaking another tech lab. Is to just turtle, harass a little bit, and come back in the long game, like it's an old school PvP or something, like you can never kill me, so we're going to have that one fight that decides the game kind of strategy. Combat shields restarted. Here we go.
There it is.
At now 11 minutes and 15 seconds into the game.
And Cure right now is, well, he's going to have this drop shut down hardcore. Everything does go down. But he does also scout the fourth base, too, so immediately is like bringing his army over here towards the right side. I think he wants to attack it, but he's not 100% confident. He like wants to wait for combat shields. Look at that army. A Bomber right now is up 30 army supply, and he still has more SCVs.
The only thing he's missing is the +2 armor. About to finish. He still has combat shields. Cure still does not. That's something that we've talked about this entire game, and is finally starting to come to a close. Like he will actually have those combat shields, but look at this
Marines. Maybe if he stims into the tank line, Cure will have a bit of a chance.
I think he can still even just do that. Like, just drop all his tanks, stim in with the combat shields he has.
Looks like he's thinking about it. He's going to try to come from the right side here, force Cure out of position. I like this.
Yep. He knows he has no vision up here. The tanks can't set up. He's going to force Cure to reposition. Combat shields. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He finally got those.
12 minutes and a half into the game.
Bomber going to try to just circumvent this army entirely. One of the ways Cure could get ahead in this game is a positive base trade, like an elimination race. Bomber's just kind of forcing him to reposition. He's getting more ahead in the economy. Look at his bank he's building now.
He's making 3 command centers at the same time. I mean, he's taking a 5th base. There's a couple on the left side, too. Cure's just going to go for this. He's going to go for the stim. All the tanks of Bomber are all alone and not getting those shots. They immediately go down.
Yeah. That's one of many positive trades we will have to see from Cure here. Don't forget, Bomber's about to have +2 for his siege tanks. He already had the +1. Cure does not have that upgrade whatsoever. Just something else to keep in mind. That's not like the game-deciding thing. It's not as important as marine upgrades and definitely not as important as combat shields, but still one small edge to keep in mind when we have these big fights.
Yeah. Scan going down here, and Kira decides to float his main out to the 4th base. He can't really afford to be making other bases. Oh, and look at this. He's going to get that position here and shell a bunch of the tanks, but is that enough? I'm not so sure.
It doesn't look like it. Bomber going to dominate this fight. Way more Marines, a way better defensive position here, and that is GG. That is game over. Even though he has to retreat here for a moment and get his tanks with his army, he just takes a 65, or rather a 60 supply lead with that fight.
Yeah, look at that beautiful base. So much production going down here for Bomber. That has been pretty untouched throughout the entire game. The aggression has been mainly out of Bomber. We've said it before, TVT, you definitely have to be aggressive in order to win the majority of the time.
Harassment with tanks in medevacs, tank evac control is like, if we had that graph from before, it would be like the whole pie chart. Okay, it would be like the biggest point of the like pentagram or whatever you call that that graph that we had. Like, tank evac control is so important. We have what, like 9 tanks to 3 right now. He just has an overwhelming force.
And here we go, Bomber. I think he just wants to end this one here as his +3 finishes up. Here we go, landing those tanks. Kira cannot fight this, but he's forced to. A big stim forward, and that puny army you see at the north is all that Kira's got left.
Half the army supply of Bomber. That could be the GG scan. He's not ready to give up yet.
Bomber showing his military prowess. Immediately picks up all the tanks in the face of the scan.
He's like, scanned. He's like, is there any way? No. Actually, no. Now the CC is dead as, dead as dead could be. GG, there it is.
There it is. And once again, the day of upsets. Bomber takes a game off of Cure. And we are beginning to go into what could be another very long series between these two teams.
Pretty excited about this. Bomber really showing a good game. Making the right decisions. Committing tactical drops. We knew his opponent didn't have stim. He committed to that as well. Stopped combat shields from happening. And there was no way for Cure to take a fight. No way for him to be on the map. And even with the commitment to turrets, Bomber was able to scan, realize he could commit there. And that's the kind of game that shows why Bomber is still a player that's fielded consistently for Afreeca, despite the fact that his results don't show it. When you see a game like this, you know he's playing well in the house, he's playing well on the ladder. We don't see him play well all the time on televised matches, but when you see a game like this, it reminds you.
Yeah, so that's going to tie everything up 1-1. Rogue winning the first set, Bomber taking the second. So for game number 3, guys, it looks like we got another TVT on the way. This is going to be Maru versus Alive. Now, Maru's shown some pretty sick TVT, but so has Alive. So this is going to be a very good match, actually, between these two players.
This absolutely will be, for me, the highlight match of the evening. This match is the best. Two kings of TVT. I feel like Alive, do you get the vibe that what we saw from Dream last year, like his dominance as a Terran that almost came out of nowhere, is similar to what we're seeing from Alive right now? It's like suddenly everyone's like, I remember this guy from Wings of Liberty. He was pretty good, and now he's starting to get better and better and better. This, to me, feels like when we saw Maru versus Dream in the finals of Star League of Season 1 last year, this kind of gives me that kind of vibe of Maru will probably beat him, but anything could happen, you know, in a TVT.
For Alive's chances, it doesn't happen the way it happened in that one, because that was a bopping in that finals. I think it was 4-1 in favor of Maru.
That's right.
So, yeah, I think this one will be a bit closer. You know, Alive has shown that he's really, really fantastic at TVT as well. He did lose in that one game against TY, but because it was so close and just the tenacity of Alive to not ever go down in that game and just stick in it for so long and almost bring it back into his favor really shows what he can do in TVT.
Yeah, really a player that understands how to pick apart a defense, and also a player that can use vision control to just avoid armies, go for the main base trade like Marine King of old, basically.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're going to take a 3-minute break. We will be right back.